Hello everyone, you are on the CGI Digital Art channel and with you I am Cupcake. We continue to study Adobe Illustrator, and if you have not seen the two previous lessons, then tips will now appear, you can click here and watch them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like it and let's start the lesson. Today we will look at 5 more topics that are very important for getting started in Adobe Illustrator. The first thing we'll start with is working with layers. When you draw any shape, changing its color, it is placed in a group of layers. Initially, each object is placed in a separate layer. The workflow in Illustrator is somewhat different from Photoshop. In Photoshop, a layer is already a separate object. There's another division here. You have a certain group called a layer. And inside it, there may already be any number of objects. Therefore, a mistake occurs when many layers are made at once, here on the right. And each object is drawn on a separate layer. Then the big problem is to collect all these objects together and group them. Therefore, be careful with layers. In this tutorial we will only work with one layer. Therefore, I click on the right mouse button and delete the layer. Super. Now let's draw another object with you, so that I show you how you can move objects through the list of layers. For example, you have a circle, and I want to make a crescent out of it. I copy it by holding down the Alt key, as I showed you in the last lesson. Now if we add a stroke and change the color of the top circle for clarity, you will notice that the pink circle is above the yellow one. If you need to change the location, you need to pinch the layer and move it lower. When you have a joint, you can release it. After which, your objects will change places. If you have more objects like this, you'll just have more of them in the layer list, and we can move them around in the same way. Very often this problem arises when there are really a lot of objects and you don't have enough screen to see all the layers. A key combination will help you. You click on the object that you need to move and then, if you need to move it one level higher, you press Ctrl and square brackets. For example, Ctrl and square bracket that closes will move your object up one layer level. And Ctrl and square bracket that opens will move it down one layer level. Looking at the list of layers you will see what is happening. The square is running back and forth. The scheme is the same as in Photoshop. If you need to move an object to the very top or to the very bottom, then add Shift to the desired key combination. Ctrl, Shift in a square bracket that opens or Ctrl, Shift in a square bracket that closes. You can also raise or lower groups of objects. Selected, Ctrl, Shift and square bracket that closes moved. Ready. A very convenient thing, be sure to use it, because from time to time it can be inconvenient to work with layers. Next, let's look at the grouping. Very often, when you create characters, you will have this problem. For example, I draw an eye, key L, inside this circle I will have another and another circle. I pressed Ctrl-C, Ctrl-F, and a circle was copied and pasted into the same place. I just changed its color and diameter. I ended up with a complex object that consists of 3 circles. If you are working on a character, you may need to move this eye to the left or right. But at the same time, when the character's head is behind you, if I try to stretch the selection area, it won't work. I can't capture both the head and the eye at once. That is, I only capture the head. To avoid these problems, I suggest using grouping. You can click on the first circle, hold down Shift and while you hold it, select the remaining elements. After which, you click Ctrl-G and this object is converted into a group. What are the advantages of grouping? Firstly, it saves space in layers, and secondly, it's convenient when moving complex objects. In addition, if I press Alt and copy, the entire complex object will be copied. If you accidentally grouped or you no longer need grouping, then select the object and press the key combination, Ctrl-Shift-G, the object is ungrouped. But at the same time, you must understand that you must deselect, click into the void, and only after that disassemble the object. Otherwise, it will turn out that you have removed the grouping, pull immediately and nothing happens. Why? Because the object is selected. Let's go further. We will look at alignment, which I am sure will be very useful to you in your work. We have several elements, eyes, that I want to align, so that all these circles stand exactly in the center. I click on the first object, the pupil, then on the second, the pupil, and on the third, the white. For all those objects that I want to work with during the alignment process. At the top you have a whole range of alignment-related tools. And they're also on the right if you're using the Properties panel. When you have all the objects selected, you use the following combination of horizontal center alignment. But the object disappears somewhere. Here he is. Exactly in the center of your artboard. So if you're working outside of the artboard, it will drag your subject off into the distance. Therefore, to fix this, you need to select Align to, Selected Area, Key Object, Artboard here at the top. Now let's look at the selected area. This area, in the shape of a square, is our selected area. If I click now, everything will be aligned to the center of this square. If I click this second button, Vertical Alignment to Center, then everything will be aligned. Everything became exactly in the center. Go ahead. You have two objects that need to be aligned vertically and horizontally. I need to now align these eyes so that they are exactly in the center of the character. Now they are offset to the right. I make groups out of them. Reminds me of the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-G. Now I have two separate groups. If I try to select all these objects and then align them to the center, then I'll get a cyclops. Because relative to its center, everything will be level. To prevent this from happening, I will need to place the eyes in another group. I select both eyes and group Ctrl-G. Now these two eyes are one element for the program. And in this case, if I select these objects and click Align, only in this case will everything become straight. The next thing you may notice is that when I level, my head moves a little bit. I move and it moves. To prevent this from happening, you can make the head the key object. I'm showing you. I have selected everything that is on my work area, and in order to make it key, I need to click on it again, after which it will be highlighted like this. It will automatically switch to Align to Key Object. And now, if I click Horizontal Align to Center, my eyes will move, but my head will stay in place. You will need this constantly when you work with the character. He will already have hair, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and so that all this does not move, you make the head the key object, and align the torso and other elements with respect to the head. As for other alignment methods, they are not used so often and we will not consider them. The next tool today is the pen. I mentioned it in the last lesson. When I said that for drawing in Illustrator, a pen and standard primitives are enough. If you press Pi, you will take the pen tool. On the right he has another group of several instruments. With this tool, you can draw various shapes. If you simply click with the left mouse button, you will create straight, even lines. If you want to finish drawing a figure, you must close the contour. Otherwise, you will have problems with animation and shading. Be careful with this. Then what can I do about it? I take the black arrow, V key, select the resulting shape and paint it in any color using fill. I'll show you what happens if you don't turn off the fill while creating a shape. Therefore, when you draw, it is better to turn off the fill and add it at the end. This is advice for beginners. Further, if you do not just click, but hold down the left mouse button and hold it, the guideline will bend. These are called Bezier curves. You need to learn to work with them. I advise you, for practice, to trace different pictures. In order to get the hang of it and understand how it works. The algorithm is like this. Click the left mouse button, then hold it and drag it down. The more you move it, the more the manipulators move apart. The more crooked the curve becomes. But if you spread the manipulators too far, the next point will depend directly on them. Therefore, you have taken them too far, and you want to put a dot next to them. You see, the shape is still curved. Therefore, try not to bend the shape too much. It is better to put more dots. Because you'll lose in the variability of how you can bend the shape. If you need to make an acute corner, click the usual button and then draw the acute corner. The pen is very often used when making characters, complex works. When in Photoshop you need to select an object, the pen is the best tool. I advise you to master this tool. You will be able to draw complex shapes and shapes. And if you don't know how to draw, the pen will help you, because you can take some picture, place it in Illustrator, and use the pen to trace its outline. I drew this shape, and I want to show you how to make a dotted line from a stroke, so that you understand how you can change the shape of the stroke and its style. Once you have drawn the stroke, you can increase its thickness at the top. If you need to change its style, like making it a dotted line, you can click on the word stroke, and here you have a button, dotted line. When you activate it, your line turns into a dotted line. Here, in digital values, you can enter, for example, 4-point strokes. Your line thickness will be 4 points. If you bet 40, your line thickness will be 40. You can also adjust the spaces through which you will draw a new stroke. Now let's look at how we can style the resulting dotted line. You can add an arrow pointer. You can also assign a profile to your line. It will allow your line to have a smooth thickening and thinning. There are several sets of blanks from which you can choose any option you like. You can also adjust the stroke thickness manually. To do this, press the key combination Shift+W. When you hover over the stroke, a plus sign will appear, which you can use to increase the thickness. Then in another place you can, on the contrary, reduce the thickness. This way you will have more variability. That's all for me. I hope my video was helpful to you. If so, then don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I was with you, Cupcake on the CGI Digital Art channel. See you soon. Bye everyone.